Britain was in a desperate fighting situation in 1942. Having been pushed out of Europe, it was only in North Africa that it was engaging the Germans. From now decaying old airfields around York, 4-Group Bomber Command would launch a series of devastating attacks on Germany. Primitive navigational devices had meant accurate bombing of specific military targets was almost impossible. So Bomber Harris ordered his forces to focus on industrial centres within cities. It was a sea change in strategy known as area bombing. To test the new strategy, Harris chose the historic port of Lübeck as a target.
It did have 1 or 2 industrial targets. The main reason, though, as he himself admitted in his post-war book, was that it would burn very well.
On March the 28th, over 200 bombers attacked Lübeck. The fires took 32 hours to put out. More than 300 people died. Hitler was furious and promised Churchill revenge.
Möge dieser Mann nicht wieder klagen und wimmern, wenn ich mich nun gezwungen sehen werde, eine Antwort zu geben, die sehr viel Leid über sein eigenes Volk bringt. Ich werde von jetzt ab wieder Schlag um Schlag vergelten, bis dieser Verbrecher fällt und sein Werk zerbricht.
When that revenge came a month later, York's defences were undeniably poor. The city had neither barrage balloons nor anti-aircraft guns to stave off attacks.
London hatte also viele.
In London there were lots of these barrage balloons in the sky, but York didn't have any. I don't remember any defences at all. There was nothing.
Keine Abwehr, da war nichts.
We were able to fly in, drop the bombs and go home, if there were no night fighters.
The people of York had felt vulnerable and exposed that night as the bombers flew over. In some quarters, the finger was pointed at the RAF.
They were just hovering over the houses and over the buildings. There was nothing to stop them. There wasn't any fighters up then.
Secret RAF records released after the war show the night fighter squadrons were scrambled 25 minutes after the raid began, but this apparently was normal practice.
They would like to wait until the bombers got over the target, because the method is that once you've got the fires, you can see the German bomber. So there could have been a delay due to that, but other than that, we'd been standing by all evening, so there's no reason to delay it anymore.
The squadron were proud of their record that night.
From our point of view, it was very successful, yes, to shoot down 4. Personally, I had friends in York, and I was very glad that we were able to do what we did.
At the Bar Convent, the nuns tried to find something positive amid the devastation.
I don't think there was any bitterness at all. It was this great act of charity, really, that brought about this tragedy. Any loss of life is sad, and to lose 5 members out of the community was a terrible thing.
The 5 nuns who died are now buried in a peaceful cemetery in the convent grounds.
I mean, the charity that it engendered among everybody, and that feeling of everybody being together and suffering together and so on, all those were positive things, which I think the war produced everywhere. And it brought us so close to the children that it was something tangible.
Brenda Milner's father was posthumously awarded the King's Commendation for Brave Conduct. To this day, a plaque in his memory stands at York Station.
Well, all sorts of things happen in life, don't they, that give you a different path. You just don't know what it would have been like if he'd been alive, possibly different, but we shall never know.
Freiburg in southern Germany. This town is now home to Dr. Karl Merlin. He returned here after spending the remainder of the war as a POW.
Was habe ich gefühlt?
What did I feel when I was dropping the bombs? I knew that women and children and men would be hit and die. But we were just soldiers and didn't think about that. I only thought about these things later, when I was in a prison camp. Only then did I realise what I'd done with my bombs, killed people who I didn't know, whom I had nothing against.
79 people died in the raid, more than 200 were injured. Thousands of buildings were destroyed. York was a retaliatory attack by Hitler after the British bombing of Lubeck. Despite the Führer's worst intentions, many of York's most famous landmarks remained intact. But one of York's best-known churches, St. Martin le Grand, was almost completely destroyed in the raid. Today it is partially restored, with contributions from the German government. With its fire-blackened stonework and stained-glass windows, it is a lasting symbol of post-war peace.
Well, I think it just catches the atmosphere at the time of the fire and the turmoil and so on that was going on in the city. I'm sure fear as well.
A single memorial marks the terrible events of April the 29th, 1942.
So simple, isn't it, I think? The words of Jesus as they were nailing him to the cross, you know, Father, forgive them, for they know what they do. Father, forgive. It's just so simple and straightforward. Everyone can, I think, associate themselves with that.
Edna Blakeborough suffered severe head injuries in the raid and took years to recover.
I lost my youth. I would be about 42 when I knew what it was to feel really well and to be able to do normal things and enjoy life.
After the war, Nunthorpe Grove was rebuilt and the Blakeboroughs moved back in.
You've got to start again. And we were fortunate. There were so many families killed and so many left with just perhaps a mother or a father. We were a family. There was Frank, myself and Anne. So we could start again, couldn't we? That was more than a lot could.
The Luftwaffe never revisited York with any real force for the rest of the war. Apart from the war memorial, there is little sign in York today that they were ever here at all. Little to show for the night that ordinary people did extraordinary things.